We just stepped on their face with a hobnail boot and broke their nose. We just crushed their face.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Glory UGA podcast. With today on the show, I've got a deep dive, position by position breakdown of everything that I saw at G-Day here in Athens yesterday. But before we have a lot of fun with that, guys, go ahead, subscribe to the channel right now. Subscribe, like, comment. I cannot tell you guys how much that helps as I continue to try to grow this channel. So any and all help, support that you guys can offer is greatly appreciated. And while we're at it, check out the Glory UGA podcast for full episodes of our show, wherever you get your pods, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever. You're going to find a ton more content designed for you guys, the most diehard Georgia fans out there on planet Earth. So make sure to check that out. But all right, guys, we have a lot to get to today, so let's go ahead and dive into it. And look, you guys, it was a beautiful, chilly, slightly chilly, windy Saturday in Athens, and I was excited to be out there because I got to take in what might well be the last G-Day of its kind. I don't know that for sure, but Kirby, when asked about the future of G-Day after the scrimmage, was very non-committal on what that looks like in the future. We know a lot of programs have already completely cut out spring games. So it might be, man, it might be the last real G-Day that I'll get to take in, man, which is, God, that sucks to think. But I don't know. Who knows what the future holds? All I do know is that yesterday I was in attendance inside Semper Stadium, and I was taking copious notes for you guys out there. And the goal here today is to bring you the single most comprehensive reaction recap of what went on inside Semper Stadium yesterday at G-Day. I hate that it wasn't on TV. For lack of a better term, quite frankly, I think that sucks. I think it's yet another slap in the face and a long line of slaps in the face of the average college football fan. So I was fortunate. I lived 2 miles from Semper Stadium, so I was able to get out there and take in G-Day. I know not everyone is that fortunate. So I want to do my little part here, whatever little help that I can offer. I want to do my part to help out those of you who, for whatever reason, were not able to make it out there to G-Day. And I have to start with this disclaimer. Before we dive into all the takeaways I've gotten, I have a lot of them for you, so bear with me. They're coming. I always have to start here with these disclaimers, guys, when I recap G-Day, because we have to understand it's very easy to overreact to what we see at G-Day. And I always call these G-Day recap episodes for years now. We've been doing this podcast for 10 years. You guys know. So like for years, I always call it the G-Day overreaction episode because again, it's hard not to overreact to what you see because it's all we get. For most Georgia fans, it's all you get from the end of the season, like December, January, to the start of the season in late August, early September. And that's a long, dark offseason for people who care so much or invested in Georgia football as much as we are. So this one taste of Georgia football that we get in the middle of the offseason, yeah, we put a lot of stock into it. It's easy to overreact. So you just have to be aware of that. But you also have to understand that while, yeah, it's one taste that we get, and it is easy to overreact, in reality, it's just one practice. That's really what it is. It's one of our 15 spring practices. It's the closest thing resembling a game that we do during the spring, but when you break it down, it is one practice. That's what it is. So with that in mind, I always caution everyone, and I have to caution myself. I include myself in this, to be very careful and not draw like definitive conclusions. Try not to off of what you see at G-Day. But saying that doesn't mean you can't learn anything from G-Day. It doesn't mean that you can't still glean some information if you know what to look for, if you approach with the right mindset. So that's why I feel it's important to do these episodes. I do think there's a lot that you can learn. I do, if you approach it the right way. You want to stop short of like drawing these like wild conclusions, but again, you can still learn things coming out of G-Day. So that's the way I'm approaching this. There are some things that I'm going to run through here, and there are a lot of takeaways that I have for you guys. But I also want you to understand that I am one guy, and I tried my best to take as many notes as I possibly could. You also have to remember, I'm one dude with two eyes, right? There's 22 Georgia football players out there on any given spring game, any given snap. It's impossible for me to watch every single player and every single snap. I try, man. I try taking as big of a picture as I possibly can from play to play. I'm watching different positions, different players. I'm trying to scan the field pre-snap to see who's out there and who's playing what position, what the coverage is, what formations we're in. There's a lot I'm trying to watch. But when there's 22 Georgia football players on the field on every snap, it's hard to see it all. So invariably, I'm going to miss something. And what I saw is what I saw. Someone else that was there might have seen something totally different because they were maybe watching a different position on a given play, right? So just, you got to keep that in mind. It's fun. There are things that we can take away, that we can learn from it, but you also have to remember to take everything with a healthy, a great dose of skepticism, a grain of salt, if you will. So just keep that in mind. But let's go ahead, guys. We got a lot to talk about. Let's dive into the position by position breakdown. We're going to start on offense. We'll work our way over to the defense. And I'm going to start with the quarterback position. And off the top here, I'm going to break my golden rule that I just told you that you have to be careful not to do, right? And draw like definitive conclusions. Well, bear with me here. Hear me out. At the quarterback position, my single biggest takeaway, not just from quarterback, but really the entire scrimmage. And I tweeted this out right after I left Sanford Stadium, walking over to Foley Field, taking the Georgia baseball game. And if you're not following us on Twitter, go ahead and do that, at @Glory_UGA. My biggest takeaway from this entire scrimmage is that Georgia can abso-freaking-lutely win a national championship with Gunnar Stockton at quarterback. I know. I hear myself. And I just told you, don't draw definitive conclusions. And here I am seemingly drawing a definitive conclusion. But hear me out, all right? I am not basing that statement on G-Day alone. Not alone. It's a part of the equation. I'm basing it on every time I've seen Gunnar Stockton since December, since the SEC championship game, all right? And to support my opinion here, I want to make sure everyone understands. I know a lot of you have been with me for a long time, and you've been listening to this podcast for years. You are very well aware of my stance on Gunnar Stockton. However, I do know that we're also getting more and more new listeners with each and every episode. So I want to make sure everyone understands my history with Gunnar Stockton, okay? I am far from a Gunnar Stockton stan. Okay, if that's what you want to go with, if that's what you're typing in the comments right now to rip me up, type away, do what you want, but understand that's not what I am, okay? I am a guy who loves Georgia football. I'm a Georgia guy through and through, man, and I want what's best for Georgia. And I love Gunnar. I think Gunnar's a great dude. And I love, call me crazy. I like for good things to happen to good guys, right? Good things happen to good people. It's just good to see that, right? But at the same time, as a Georgia guy, ultimately what I want more than anything is what's best for Georgia. I want good things to happen for Gunnar, but I want good things to happen for Georgia more. Does that check out, right? So let's go back on this very show. I don't know how many months ago was it now? Last summer, right? So fall camps, I think it was early August. I got a chance to get a fall camp practice last year, okay? And I came and sat here on this very show, I think in this very spot, and I told you one of my biggest takeaways from that scrimmage was Carson Beck better not get hurt. Because if we do, oh boy, I don't know if Gunnar Stockton's going to be able to win football games for us against the best teams in the country that we're going to have to beat to win a national championship, right? I was very open with that because what I saw at that practice was Gunnar missing guys, like overthrowing guys wildly, missing reads, not really feeling confident going through progressions. I was very concerned. And I was very open about that. Now, I did also at the same time say what I just told you at the beginning of this episode. It was just one practice, so you don't want to go crazy with your definitive conclusions. But to say I was skeptical would be fair. I had a healthy amount of skepticism about Gunnar's ability to lead this football team if Carson got hurt and what that might look like in the future, okay? I was in, let's call it wait and see mode. I was in wait and see mode. I was concerned. I wasn't saying he couldn't do it. I was just saying I need to see it. I don't know. I have questions. I wasn't just like all in just because like he was a guy that broke every record possible for Georgia high school quarterbacks. But then the SEC championship comes. Carson goes down. Gunnar comes in the second half. And I'm telling you guys, I turned to my wife. I'm standing on the Sky Bridge. I turned to her when Carson went down. I said, "Oh my God, there goes the season." Because I was skeptical, man. The last time I saw Gunnar Stockton like play anything like close to extended time was at that fall camp practice. And I did not love what I saw. So I was like, oh my God, we're going to beat this Texas team. He's going to come out and tear up this Texas defense and score enough points to win this game? No way. Well, he proved me wrong. Did some great things in that game. Showed the toughness, the grit, the leadership. Made some nice throws in the run. Also did some things that were concerning, though, too. Like throwing an interception under pressure that could have cost us the game if they just pick up a block and they could have run that back for a pick six. Yeah. So I was encouraged by what I saw from Gunnar in the SEC title game, but also still like, I need to see more from the pocket, right? Well, we fast forward to the Sugar Bowl. I thought Gunnar was fantastic in that game. Was he All-American caliber in that game? But no. But like under those circumstances, guys, I thought he performed admirably, man. First career start, in 3 years against that Notre Dame team, that Notre Dame defense that played for a national title. I thought Gunnar did everything he possibly could to give us a chance to win that game. We didn't lose that game because of Gunnar Stockton. In fact, I thought he did some really good things, throwing the deep ball. I thought that he went through progressions fairly well, not perfect. I thought that he was accurate with the football. I was very encouraged by what I saw from Gunnar in that Sugar Bowl. But I still have some questions. The release was too long. Didn't love that. The awareness in the pocket was very concerning. Yeah, Monroe Freeland gave up the sack right before halftime, but Gunner's got to feel that. You got to get the ball out of your hands. You got to escape the pocket with your athleticism. Didn't see it. Didn't feel it. And that wasn't the first time or the only time in that game. So I came away from that game much more encouraged about Gunnar, much less skeptical, but still having some questions. But at the same time, I'm sitting here and saying, all right, look, that was the dude's first time playing real football in like 3 years. Like, it's naturally there's going to be some rust. You're going to have trouble like adjusting the speed of the game and feeling a guy coming from your backside when you haven't done it for 3 years. Now you're playing this Notre Dame defense. That's a tough spot, right? So I had an open mind going to spring practice. Like, okay, let's see. Let's just see what happens. So now we fast forward to a couple weeks ago, the first weekend of spring practice, coach's clinic. You get to take in a couple practices if you go to that. And I thought Gunnar looked great, man. Like, he was in complete control out there. And I walked away from that saying, man, like, Gunnar, yeah, like, he was better in the SEC Championship game than when I saw him in fall camp. He was better in the Sugar Bowl than I saw him in the SEC Championship game. He's better at the first week of spring practice than he was in the Sugar Bowl. And now we fast forward to G-Day, to Saturday, and what I saw out there is I saw a guy in complete control. Was he perfect? No, I'm not suggesting that he was. Yes, he did throw an interception. It was an underthrow and a 50-50 ball in the end zone. He would have to have that one back. But you know what? He also threw quite a few dimes on those 50-50 balls, those fades, the slot fades, the outside fades. Threw some absolute dimes, far more than he threw bad passes in those situations, right? So not perfect, but really good. And what I need to see from Gunnar was I need to see him operate from the pocket. Those are the questions I had. Operate from the pocket, your pocket mobility, moving the pocket, awareness, getting rid of the football, check downs on time, going through progressions, diagnosing defenses, seeing coverages, going through progressions, knowing where the football, go from 1 to 2 to 3, take your check down. That's what you have to, if that's what you have to take, have that clock in your head. I saw all that from Gunnar. I saw it earlier in the spring, and I saw it again in the closest thing to a game setting that we're going to have until the season. Okay, we're trying to simulate that as much as possible against, by the way, a really freaking good Georgia defense. One of the best defenses he'll face all year. Zero doubts about that. I thought he looked awesome. Not perfect, but awesome. Again, taking strides. Every time I see him, he gets better and better and better. And it's to the point, I'm not telling you, let's make sure you hear what I'm saying here. Did I say that Georgia will win a national title, Gunnar Stockton? No, I did not. Your boy did not say that. What your boy said is Georgia can win a national title with Gunnar Stockton. I've seen enough now. Not just G-Day alone, but G-Day is just another step in his progression. I continue to see improvement from Gunnar. And I see him do the things that he's going to need to be able to do to give us a chance to win a national title. At the very least, what I'm telling you is that Gunnar Stockton, I've seen enough from him now to tell you confidently that his presence at quarterback this season is not going to preclude us from winning a national title. Gunnar Stockton is not going to keep Georgia from winning a national title. In fact, I think he can help us win a national title, especially with the talent around him. We'll get that in a minute. We are loaded around him. With that talent around him, with the talent we have on defense, the coaching staff that we have, I think Gunnar is every bit good enough to be a quarterback that can help lead Georgia to a national championship. I fully believe that. You can disagree with me on that. That's fine. Time will tell. But I think Gunnar, I'm coming around, man. I'm a believer. Okay, I am now a believer in Gunnar Stockton. Not a stan. I'm keeping an open mind. If he falters when we get in the season, hey, I'll reevaluate. But the way I operate, guys, is I base my opinion on what I see. But when new evidence presents itself, I am willing to adjust that opinion. I think that's what you should do. That's what being objective is, right? So yeah, I was skeptical of Gunnar, but I keep getting more and more evidence, new information, new evidence, and I've adjusted my opinion. My opinion of Gunnar has evolved over the past several months based on every time I see him and the new evidence that I get. The guy continues to improve, and I do believe that Georgia can win a national title. Gunnar Stockton, I thought he had a really strong spring game considering the circumstances, and I was impressed, man. So yeah, by the way, I know a lot of you are concerned about the release because I keep hearing about that. I mentioned it before. I'll say it again. Guys, he's cleaned it up, man. He spent a lot of time this offseason very clearly. The release is a lot shorter, tighter, more compact. It's the ball of his hands a lot quicker. The awareness is much more improved. There's a couple plays at G-Day on Saturday where you could see him feel the pressure. God, I need to see that. feel the pressure coming from the backside, is able to escape out the other side, uses athleticism. We did a good job, give Mike Bobo some credit. Did a really good job of giving him some throws on the run. I think Gunner excels throwing on the run. Bobo clearly sees that, and we did a lot of different things, where sprint outs, nakeds, giving him a chance to throw on the run. So love to see that. I'm a believer, man. I believe in Gunner Stockton now until I get evidence to suggest otherwise. All right? Now, the other guy, Ryan Puglisi, I've also been very open saying, I think physically speaking, like in terms of just raw physical tools, he's got better physical tools than Gunner. And it's not to say Gunner doesn't have good physical tools. He does. But I think Pug is just a different level in terms of his athleticism, maybe a little bit more athletic, a little bit of a stronger arm, a little bit bigger in stature, all those things. But he's just not quite where Gunner is in understanding the system. Now, Pug did some really good things. You saw the raw talent was on full display. In fact, what I saw from him from that raw talent standpoint fully reinforced my belief coming into it that he is, physically speaking, a little bit more gifted than Gunner Stockton is. But, guys, there's a lot more to playing quarterback than just that. That's a big part of it, sure, but he's just not quite fully there yet in understanding our system, having full grasp. So there were a number of plays out there where, like, okay, when his first read was there, like, he's got the arm talent to get the ball there. Absolutely, but your first read's not always there. Going through progressions for Pug wasn't quite as clean and consistent as it was for Gunner. A couple plays we had to escape the pocket when he didn't really need to. Probably should have stepped up in the pocket instead of escaping outside the pocket. Just small little things like that will clean up over time. But you have to remember, like, this guy is really in his first real spring. Yeah, he was an early enrollee last year, but was banged up in fall camp or spring practice, didn't do anything in G-Day, was banged up a lot of fall camp, didn't really do anything there either. So, yeah, he's been in the system for a year in meetings, which is great, but these are like the first real reps he's getting. Like, he's still a really young quarterback. I'm very encouraged by his ability and where he is right now in his development, considering that it's really like his first real spring. I think Pug is going to be awesome. I hope to God that we land Jared Curtis, this top quarterback in this class. But even if we do, I'm not going to count Pug out. I think the guy is extraordinarily talented. I think he's made of the right stuff. I think he's got the right mentality. I think he knows that he has to learn. He's willing to take coaching, all those things. You match that kind of work ethic along with the physical tools. I think that Pug gets a chance to be a really good quarterback for Georgia. Barring injury, I don't think it's going to be this year. I still believe it's Gunner. I believe in Gunner right now, but I do like Pug a lot there. All right, let's move on to running back. The guy I've been talking about and kind of waxing poetic about here on this show all spring, like going back to the first week of the spring, I did a video, I did a podcast episode talking about Bo Walker and how he was a freshman who was just turning heads early in spring practice. And that was interesting because he was a guy who's like a lower 3-star rated guy coming out of high school in this freshman class as an early enrollee. He was certainly not on the top of everyone's list of freshmen who can make an impact on this Georgia football team. But early returns were, yeah, he might be that guy. And as spring went on, you kept hearing more and more and more about Bo. The buzz never really abated. And saw him I told you guys, I came back from the coaching league, like this guy, like that dude looked awesome. He looked awesome at G-Day. At G-Day, Bo was just doing what Bo's been doing all spring, just balling out, making plays, man. There was one play in particular, and I put it out on social media. I tried to take some videos of the replays on the Jumbotron. So if you haven't seen some of those, go check it out on Twitter, guys. Again, at @glory_UGA. And there's a one run where, yeah, the offensive line did a great job on a toss to the field. I think it was the field, might have been the boundary, but a toss outside. And they did a great job giving him 4 or 5 yards, what the offensive line is supposed to do. But the running back's job is to take what the offensive line gives you and turn it into a bigger gain, right? So he took the 4 or 5 yards the offensive line gave him and turned it into like a 20, 25-yard gain because he's got great vision, great short area quickness, great cutting ability, all those things. Runs with a low center of gravity. The one thing that you can say is a knock on Bo Walker is that he doesn't have that elite next gear home run type speed. We talked about earlier in spring, and that was also on display on that particular play. Like a guy with a little bit more speed would have scored a touchdown on that play. I think he got tackled like inside the 5-yard line. But while you would love your running back to have elite home run speed, of course you would. For me, that's much lower on my list of attributes that I prioritize in a running back when I'm evaluating them. I put much more priority on vision, on short area quickness, on burst, acceleration, suddenness, to be able to get through the hole when you see it, on center of gravity, on power, on contact balance, all those things. And Bo Walker checks all those things definitively. Like, he is a really, really good running back, and you saw that. I think he was the leading rusher, actually. In fact, you look at my notes right here. Yes, he was the leading rusher on the day. But he wasn't the only running back that I thought was impressive. Chauncey Bowens was the guy that actually was getting the work on the number one offense along with Nate Frazier. I thought Chauncey had a fantastic scrimmage. I thought he looked great, man. Now, the thing about Chauncey is, like, I liked him coming out of high school. He's a guy that we flipped from Florida late in that cycle. And he has a lot of ability, but when he got some opportunities to play a little bit last year, not a lot, it looked like he was like a classic freshman who was just like thinking too much and his head was spinning, wasn't really confident in what he was doing. When you're not confident in what you're doing, you don't really do it full speed, right? That goes for any position, certainly running back position as well. And what I saw at G-Day was this guy moving more confidently, faster and quicker than he did at any point last year. Absolutely. He looked a lot faster, a lot quicker, a lot more explosive out there. He was the one that broke off a couple explosive runs in the first half. There's also a catch he made on a little check down pass. He catches the ball on a check down, turns upfield. I think it was Terrell Foster, who's a linebacker that had him in space there. He's out in space with Terrell Foster, puts a little juke on him, makes Terrell Foster miss. And Terrell Foster's a good linebacker, guys. Makes him miss, and then he is able to dart ahead for about a 15, 16-yard gain. So operating in space looks strong. He's already a bigger, stronger guy, got some power. I thought Chauncey Bowens looked really good. Nate Frazier did some good things. His numbers weren't spectacular. They didn't break off a ton of big runs. He had a nice reception. But we know we have in Nate Frazier. He didn't get as many opportunities as Bo and Chauncey because, like, again, we already know what we have in him. We don't need to put him out there and have him get hurt. He's going to be the RB1 for sure. But coming out of G-Day, I'm much more confident in our running back room as a whole. We're still kind of thin there. If we can get both Branson and Roger Robinson back healthy, like full go, like, yeah, we're fine there. But I just don't know with their injury situation. I think they'll be clear for the fall camp. I don't know what version of them we'll get. I mean, they've had a number of different injuries over the past year or so. So we'll see there. But that three-headed monster of Nate Frazier, Chauncey Bowens, and Bo Walker, that's a really strong three-headed monster, guys. Like, we are in really good hands there. I know they're young. There's not a ton of experience there, but those guys can play. Dwight Phillips didn't do as much in this game, but he's had a really good spring. I mean, I saw this. I heard this guy. I actually saw him at the coaches clinic break off a couple big runs, and he's had a good spring as well, done some good things. But he just wasn't the guy that stood out as much at G-Day. So, yeah, Bo Walker did what he's been doing all spring long, did his thing. Chauncey Bowens looked really good. Nate looked good in some flashes there. So I think we're in really good hands at running back. All right, moving on to wide receiver. So if the quarterback situation and us being able to win national title with Gunnar Stockton was my biggest takeaway from G-Day. My second biggest takeaway kind of dovetails with the take with Gunnar Stockton is we are straight up loaded at wide receiver. And I'm going to take it even further than that. It's not just wide receiver. We are loaded at the offensive skill position. You can throw in running back with that. You can throw in tight ends. We'll talk about here in a minute. But wide receivers in particular, guys, what a night and day difference from what we had last year. I would argue that last year, our wide receiver room was our single greatest deficiency from a personnel standpoint. You guys know it. You saw it. Yeah, there were some extenuating circumstances, legal issues and injuries, all that. But you saw the same thing I saw, guys. Like, we led the country in drops. Just hurting for playmakers out there. It was a problem. It was 100% a problem, right? Carson Beck wasn't always great, but the receivers certainly didn't always help him out either. But you got to give Kirby Smart and company credit for going out and turning what I think was the biggest personnel weakness on our team last year and turning into, I think, arguably the strength of the Georgia offense this year. I would make the argument right now. It's so early, guys. We haven't played a game yet. I understand that. But based off what I've seen and knowing the personnel we have on hand at that position, it is night and day, man. So let's start with the starters. We went up with 13 personnel. It was Colby Young at X, Noah Thomas at Z, and we had Dylan Bell playing the slot. That was our opening three there on that first series. But, man, it wasn't just them. Like, all those guys did some good things, but we have playmakers galore at the wide receiver position. And, guys, I think the coaches know what we have because out there at G-Day, whenever our receivers got, like, one-on-one opportunities, we were throwing the ball up to them. It was, okay, one-on-one, automatic, we're just going to throw you a 50-50 ball and let you go make a play. Because, guys, we have not one, not two, not three, 4 or 5 guys, maybe more than that can go up and consistently win those contested catch situations. How many of those guys did we have last year? Did we have even one? Did we? No, we really didn't. We didn't have one guy that could go up and do that. I think about the Notre Dame game, right? The Sugar Bowl. We get in the red zone. We don't score a touchdown there like in the second half, right? We're trying to mount that comeback. We get in the red zone, march down the field. And who are we throwing the fades to, the contested catch balls to? Lawson Lucky. And Lawson's a great player, but he's not Brock Bowers. That's not what that guy does, right? That's not really his game. Ain't going to be a problem this year, guys. You get in a red zone situation like that this year, you got Colby Young, you got Noah Thomas out there, you probably put Elias Williams in there. I mean, you can't double all of them. Somebody's going to get one-on-one coverage. And whoever has one-on-one coverage, I'm telling you, we're just going to throw the ball up to them. That's what we're going to do. We did it all day long. We've been doing it all spring, and they delivered time and time again. Colby Young had a one-on-one contested catch 50-50 ball touchdown over Daniel Harris. Pug, great throw by Pug, but great catch by Colby Young. CJ Wiley, the freshman, had the first big one in the first half. Nice contested catch ball. And then you got Zachariah Branch had one in the slot fade, which thank God we saw a number of slot fades, which was a play that just apparently wasn't in our playbook the last year or so, which I thought was a crime against humanity. I don't think Mike Bobo is, you guys know, I don't want to go into the Mike Bobo thing. I don't think he's as bad as everyone else thinks he is. A lot of people think he is. But I do think that we misused Dominic Lovett, and we could have run a lot more slot fades, and he could have been a lot more explosive for us at that position. We did not really give him opportunity, so that was one big issue I had with how we used him. Looks like we figured that out. We cleaned that up. It was like, oh yeah, we have some guys that can make explosive plays for us from that position. Let's throw some slot fades, and they get one-on-one looks with a star defender, a slot DB. Yeah, go figure. What happens? Yeah, big play. So Zachariah Branch made a big one over Janelle Aguero. Jeremy Bell made a big one over Janelle Aguero for a touchdown. We'll get to Janelle a little bit later on. Janelle was good. Just 2 plays they had on him. But Jeremy Bell, who I told you guys about, I did a video on him last week. I said, yeah, I know he's 6'0". I get it. I know he's a preferred walk-on. He's not a scholarship guy. Most people don't know who this guy is. I'm telling you, this guy, Coach's Clinic, you see him out there, like, who is this guy? Just making play after play after play. Explosive playmaker. Then you hear that buzz all spring long. I keep hearing from people I trust. Did a video on him last week. And some of you guys out there that I love dearly, I appreciate you guys. I appreciate your thoughts. We're saying, hey, man, like, I'll take your word for it, but I don't know. You saw it out there. If you were there at G-Day, you saw what I'm talking about. The guy, yeah, he's small. I know. Freak athlete. We're talking about winning slam dunk contest for GHSA, jumping over 2 dudes. Windmill dunking things at 6 foot tall. Small guy, sure, but won the 400 meter as a junior, okay? And win slam dunk contest, crazy good basketball player. The guy's just an electric playmaker. And he didn't get a ton of opportunities, but I'll also say this about Jeremy Bell. By the way, he spent the entire second half with the number 1 offense. First half, number 2 offense. Second half, number 1 offense. So for those of you who are kind of skeptical of what I'm saying about Jeremy Bell, I'm like, oh my God, like, yeah, he's that classic guy that every spring there's always one guy that balls out at G-Day, and like, you think he's going to make this big splash, and the season comes, and he does nothing. I don't think that's going to be Jeremy Bell, guys. I think the fact that he's playing with the number 1 offense, basically, I think the entire second half, if I remember correctly, based on my memory and my notes here, that, to me, speaks volumes about what our coaches think about Jeremy Bell. Why would that guy be playing with number 1 offense for an entire half if the coaches did not have plans to use him in meaningful situations this year? It just defies logic, right? The guy's going to play. I'm not telling you he's going to start. I'm not telling you he's going to play a ton, but he's going to play. And he will make plays for George. He will help George win football games this year. Book it. Mark my words on that. But as fun as he is, Colby Young's still the guy. Like, he's the dude at receiver for Georgia. He's the alpha right now. Noah Thomas looked good. He was out there with the starting unit, but he didn't come out in the second half. I didn't see him out there in the second half. Maybe I missed him again. I'm one guy, 2 eyes, trying to watch a lot of ball out there, a lot of different guys. I didn't see him in the second half, so I can correct me if I'm wrong. I didn't hear about an injury. I don't know what went on there. I'm guessing there's maybe just like a precautionary kind of thing, but didn't see him much in the second half, so he didn't do a ton. Zachariah Branch didn't start, but he got a lot of work with the number 1s, and he's electric with the ball in his hands, and that slot fade, big catch on the 50-50 ball. Get the ball in space to him, and that guy's just going to make some plays for you. London Humphreys also had a great game, second half especially. He had 2 touchdowns in the second half. I think he actually might have led the team in receiving. I think him and Dylan Bell were the 2 leading receivers. I think he led his team, the black team, I want to say it was, in receiving. He had a couple big plays on end rounds as well. And guys, think about London Humphreys. This is a guy that played a lot for Georgia last year when he was not hurt. This year, he might be like our 7th or 8th receiver. I mean, I'm dead serious about that. Think about this, okay? Hear me out. Colby Young, Noah Thomas, Dylan Bell, Zachariah Branch, Jeremy Bell, CJ Wiley, maybe Talon Taylor, Sokovie White. Where does London Humphreys fit in there? I'm not saying he can't be ahead of some of those guys, but he's not going to be in like our top 6. And that dude was making a lot of plays out there for us. That's what I'm talking about, taking a weakness, a deficiency, and turning it into a strength. That guy he was like our 4th or 5th guy last year receiver. Like, at times our 4th at the end of the season, as the season wore on, as it progressed. Now, like, he's going to be fighting for playing time, man. And Sokovie White is another guy. You guys know I love him. South Georgia kid, just knows how to play football, man. He's a tough, hard-nosed guy. Athletic, playmaker, extraordinaire, all those things. Didn't do a lot early in the game. Second half, though, get the 2-minute drill, made 2 really impressive contested catches. One was a great contested catch, a 50-50 ball. One was the back of the end zone, kind of beat Ellis Robinson. Ellis kind of just like lost him back there, made a nice kind of like half leaping grab there for the touchdown. So Kofi's a heck of a football player. We have a ton of guys that can play slot. I thought Talon Taylor did some good things. He dropped the ball, but also thought he did some good things, looked really good, fluid in and out of his routes, which you kind of expect. He's a really polished guy coming out of high school. So we have so many weapons at receiver right now that truly I do not know how we're going to find snaps for all of them. I don't think we will. I don't think we can. Barring injury, I don't know how we find snaps for all those guys. But that's a good problem to have. Think about where we were last year. We had to take Dylan Bell, who's not an X receiver. He had to play X. And we didn't really have anyone behind him. Like, Nitro Tuggle was our next best X receiver? Maybe, because you have the legal situations with Colby Young and Ra Thomas, right? Well, this year, if somebody gets hurt, somebody has a situation, we're going to be fine. We are loaded. So it's a great problem to have, man. I'm telling you, we are just absolutely loaded with skill talent, especially at that receiver position. And, man, like that's why I say, look, Gunnar Stockton might not be an All-American, but the talent he has around him, Gunner's every bit good enough to use that talent to help us win a national title. So love to see that. Tight ends, we'll stick with the skill talent theme here for a minute. It's obvious we like our tight end room. Of course, we have Oscar Dupp and Lawson Lucky. Lawson did some good things, had some nice catches. Oscar had one nice catch and run. But those guys, like we know what we have in them. I was wanting to see if Lawson was ready to take that next step, but I was also excited to see what the young guys could do, like Ethan Barbour and Elias Williams, and also Jaden Riddell, the redshirt freshman. And this is another example of I think you can kind of read into some of the coaches we're doing. So I do believe our tight end room will be much more involved in our pass game this year. You start to see that more as last season progressed. I think Lawson Lucky's in line to take a big step this year, and that kind of Brock Bowers mover hybrid tight end role. But there was a possession, second team offense, got in the red zone on 3 consecutive passes in the red zone. We went to our tight ends. The first one we went to Elias Williams. He was open. Pug found him, hit him. Elias just dropped it. It is what it is. He dropped the ball. It happens sometimes, right? Second down. Ethan Barbour he finds a nice little route, is wide open in the back of the end zone. Pug sees him. Pug throws it to him. Ball gets bad down. Nice play by Edmonds. It is what it is. Third down there. I think we went to Ethan Barbour again. Was incomplete, but we went to tight ends 3 times in a row. I think we realized those guys can be weapons for us and matchup problems for defenses, especially once we get in the red zone. We have talk about being loaded at receiver. Guys, our tight end room is unbelievable. You got Oscar Dupp, you got Lawson Lucky, and then you got a guy like Elias Williams, who's just a freakish, tall, long, athletic guy who can play receiver for you. Ethan Barbour is just a football player, kind of like Scovie White, just in a tight end form, and just knows how to make plays. Athletic, strong hands, good blocker, all those things. Jaden Riddell did some really good things. I'm excited about Jaden Riddell. I think he's going to be our number 3 tight end. And he had one nice catch and run. You can see the athleticism, which he's always had. He needed to get bigger and stronger, and you see that out there from him on the field. So I love the tight end room along with the receiver room. Again, I know I keep saying it. I'm a broken record. But, dude, we are straight up just loaded up with an embarrassment of riches at the skill position this year offensively. So love that. Now, saying that, that's awesome. But the offensive line is still a question for me. I came into G-Day wanting to watch one player in particular more than anybody else in the offensive line, and that was Ernest Green at right tackle. You guys know how I feel about Ernest Green. If you're new to the show, I don't trust Ernest Green at left tackle. I think Ernest Green's more of a guard than he is anything. Certainly not a left tackle. He just hasn't been good enough there for 2 years. Injuries were part of the situation last year. Complicating matters, yes, but he's not a left tackle. We're playing him at right tackle. I was still a little skeptical coming to G-Day, wanted to see it. I will say I feel better about right tackle. I think Ernest is more comfortable there. I don't have to worry about him protecting the blind side as much. And now that he's healthier and he's got his body back in shape, he looks like he's moving better out there. I think we'll be fine at right tackle. For now. The interior I thought looked good. No Daniel Calhoun. He's going to be probably a starter at right guard. He got banged up a week or so ago. He's missed the rest of spring practice. Michael Winnie I thought did some good things out there. Left tackle, still a work in progress. No Monroe Freeling, who I do think is going to be our left tackle this year. I know it wasn't a great look from at the end of last year, but he's also really banged up. He had an offseason shoulder surgery. He should have been playing against Notre Dame. I know he had some high-profile misses, but he was getting out, man, and giving us everything he had. It was what it was. But he's not out there right now. So it's a lot of Bo Hughley. It's a lot of Jazar Jackson. And I think Jazar Jackson is going to be really good. He just needs some time. Like, you see it in flashes. You see one play, it's like, oh, dude, yeah, look at that footwork out there. He's able to protect the blind side. His pass set's really strong. He's really quick out there. Nice footwork. And the next play is like completely lost, or he overextends. He gets himself off balance. So it's just, Physically, the guy is unbelievable. But it's just learning how to play the position. He didn't play football for like 4 years. He's playing like semi-pro basketball, right? But he's like 6'10", 350-ish pounds. The guy is going to be, he's an NFL body. He's just got to learn how to play the position. It's going to happen. And when that light goes off for him, watch out for Jazar Jackson. I think that guy is going to be a big-time player for Georgia. I just don't think it's going to be this year. I still think it's going to be Monroe Freeland, but I did see some nice things from Jazar Jackson. I know a name that people are excited about, and I'm excited about too, is Juan Gasson. I've heard some good things about him throughout fall camp, the true freshman, early enrollee. But I thought he looked like a freshman for the most part out there. He's playing a lot of right guard. Again, with some of the injuries we have at right guard. And I thought he had some good things. Like, you see the physicality. Like, he's got a good body. He's got his body in shape. It was a little out of weight coming out of high school, but he's got his body in shape. Love to see that from him. But there's a couple plays. So, again, technically speaking, just kind of got overextended. Guys, being able to swim past him, make plays in the backfield. But he's going to be really good. He's just not there yet. He's just not there yet. Now, that doesn't mean by the end of the season he can't be ready to help us. Maybe. I just don't know if he's there right now. But all in all, I was very encouraged by what I saw from the Georgia offense at G-Day. I'm very excited to see what we're going to be able to do offensively in 2025. They have me really, really excited, guys. I think we have a ton of playmakers to work with. All right, flipping things over to the defensive side of the football, let's start up front with the defensive line. I thought the defensive line looked great. I'm just going to be real good. Another one of my takeaways, I thought the defensive line was awesome. I think we're in really good position on the defensive line and be really, really strong up front. Do we have one guy that's going to be like Jalen Carter or Jordan Davis? No, probably not. Probably not. But I think as a unit, we have a number of guys that can get the job done for us this year, man. Christian Miller didn't even play. All right, he's another one of the guys banged up, didn't play. But the guy I had my eye on more than anybody coming to G-Day at the defensive tackle position was Jordan Hall. This is year 3 for Jordan Hall, guys. He played literally just a handful of snaps last year, had stress fractures in both his legs in fall camp, and that sucked, man. It's like I was ready for him to take a big step in year 2. Got some time in year 1, saw some good things, some flashes. Year 2 is like, all right, Jordan's going to be a big part of what we do in year 2. Wasn't meant to be with the injuries, man. I know it was hard for him. He hated to see it. But let's not forget what Jordan Hall was coming out of high school. This guy was a stud 5-star recruit and incredibly powerful. Go back and watch some of his reps and some of these all-star practices and his performance in the all-star game as a high schooler. The power is unbelievable. One of some of the best offensive linemen in the country in that same recruiting class. And I think he's got really good athleticism as well at that position. I think he can give you some pass rush. And I think he has some positional versatility. He can play zero tech for us at 6'4", about 320. Can also play, I think he's athletic enough to play some 3-tech for us as well. So I was curious to see where he is and how we're going to be using him. And we used him a little bit like at 3-tech, a little bit at 0-tech. I thought he looked great. In fact, I wrote this in my notes right here. This is coming at the end of the first quarter, it says, Jordan Hall living in the backfield. That's what I wrote down. Because it seemed like he was, man, just making play after play, using athleticism, the explosive first step off the ball to get in the backfield and just kind of wreak havoc. And that's what you want to see from Jordan Hall. So I think he's in line for a big, big, big year 3 for Georgia this year. Another big development from what I saw at G-Day was the emergence of Nnamdi Agboko. So he is a redshirt freshman. He's part of the 2024 Georgia recruiting class. Didn't play a lot last year, but this is a guy that we recruited to play specifically the 0-tech nose guard. He is 100% a 0-tech body. He's a nose guard body. He's like 350 pounds, okay? We have not had those bodies. We had Jamal Jarrett, but Jamal Jarrett just, I don't want to rip the guy. It didn't work out. Let's just leave it at that, right? Nnamdi's different. Nnamdi's gone to work, and Nnamdi's ready to contribute, guys. In fact, he was getting a lot of work with the number 1 defense. It really was kind of a rotation between him, Xavier McLeod, and Jordan Hall with that number 1 defensive line. And Nnamdi was playing a lot of 0-tech. That's huge. Because if he is ready to take that step and be an impact type guy for us at 0-tech, be that guy that we need him to be, that is going to free us up to do a lot of creative things on the defensive line to help us out. Because if he can play 0-tech, Jordan Hall doesn't have to. Jordan Hall can play 3-tech, which I think he's probably better fit there. If he can play 0-tech, Christian Miller can play 3-tech, he's a natural 3-tech body. He's not a 0-tech. He's had to play that a fair amount in his career, especially as a redshirt freshman his first year playing, because we didn't have bodies. He was our backup to Nas Stackhouse. But Christian Miller is a bona fide, he's Warren Brinson. I think him and Warren Brinson are like the same player. They both have the same, very similar frame. They both excel with their explosiveness off the ball, first step quickness. They both can be penetrative, like disruptors in the backfield, wreak havoc, that kind of stuff. But it's not what he's asked to do at 0-tech. 3-tech, you can allow him to do that. So you can play, hear me out here, if Agboko can play 0-tech, you can play, let's say, Jordan Hall at 3 tech. And then situationally, based on game plan and opponent, you could potentially slide Christian Miller or Xavier McLeod out to 5 tech on early downs, standard downs against teams that like to run the football, because we don't have a ton of bodies, much experience at all at the 5 tech. And we did this some as last year progressed, slide the 5 tech out there, or slide the tackle out to the 5 tech in certain situations. Like we did against Notre Dame, they like to run the football a lot. I was watching that game last night again. Nnamdi Agboko's presence allows us to do that and get creative there. So I think that could be huge for us in the line, man. So I thought he looked really good. I think he's the closest thing we've had to a Jordan Davis body since Jordan Davis. I'm not saying he's going to be Jordan Davis, but he's recruited to be that kind of guy. And it looks like he's taking strides in that direction. I thought Xavier McLeod looked really good too, I think, because it's his third year removed from high school. First year, South Carolina played like half the year with him and then got dismissed / left the team, whatever happened there. He was hurt at the beginning of last year. I thought he did some good things. We got some playing time at the end of last year. I think he's got some really good explosive ability, can give us some pass rush from the interior, a lot like Jordan Hall, a lot like Christian Miller. I thought he did some good things out there at G-Day. Elijah Griffin, I know is a name a lot of people are curious about. 5-star freshman, top 5 recruit in the country, number 1 defensive tackle in the country. And I thought he looked good, man. Like this guy, he's been doing a lot of good things all spring long. He's going to help us this year. He's not going to start. I'm not going to tell you he's going to play a ton of snaps, but I think he can play like a Jalen Carter role for us this year, like Jalen Carter in terms of like a freshman Jalen Carter back in 2020, where he can be a compliment to the top guys there. And when he's in there, can make an impact for us and can create some disruptive plays, get offenses off schedule, all those kind of things. I was told, I didn't hear this. Somebody told me. There's another prominent, someone else who also covers Georgia football, who does a great job. But his take was that he didn't see any twitch from Georgia defensive linemen out there. Like no defensive lineman with twitch. I would just have to respectfully disagree with that. I honestly don't know how you can watch Elijah Griffin play football and say that you don't see a defensive lineman with twitch. That's what the guy does. Like, yes, he has power. Yes, he has strong punch. But he's the closest thing we've had to Jalen Carter since Jalen Carter. And I know it wasn't that long ago, but he's got similar twitch. I'm not saying he's going to be Jalen Carter, but the athleticism, the twitch in his game, it's very similar. Okay? I just don't understand. I think he's got some twitch. Christian Miller wasn't out there, but Christian Miller has a ton of twitch in his game. I would say Jordan Hall, maybe not as much, but some for a guy his size. McLeod, not the twitchiest, but I think he has some explosiveness off the football. So I think we're really good defensive tackle. If you remember back to last year, guys, all the injuries we had early in the year, we had like 3 guys that were playing like 75+% of our snaps the first couple games of the year. With Christian Miller, Nas Stackhouse, and Tyrone Ingram-Dawkins. Like, we had nobody else healthy on the defensive line. Well, guys, we have a lot of dudes that can play for us on the defensive line this year. So if we have a guy go out, we're okay. We have a number of guys. I thought Jordan Thomas did some good things with the number 2 defensive line as well. So I love what we have on the defensive line. Knock on wood, hope they can stay healthy, because if they do, I think we're going to have a pretty damn good defensive line this year. Let's go on the defensive line. I'll throw 5 tech in there, 5 tech defensive line. We'll call it defensive line here. This is a position where we don't have a lot of bodies right now. We're pretty thin right there. We're losing Tyrone Dawkins. You lose Mykel Williams, who's a ton of production, a ton of veteran experience. That hurts. We are short on bodies and we're short on experience. I do love the talent, though, that we had there. Joseph Jonah-Janye did a lot of good things in spring practice, fall camp last year. There were some injuries that he benefited from that and took a lot of reps. He was playing for us a little bit early on last year. Then he hurt his foot and missed the rest of the season. He didn't do a ton this spring. He was coming back from that foot injury. But I was pleasantly surprised to see him out there on Saturday. And I thought he did some good things, man. I love JJA. This guy is long. He's athletic. I think he's a prototype for that 5 tech position for us. In fact, I think he can give us even more pass rush, like natural pass rush, than some of the guys that we've had at the 5 tech. I think he's a great explosive athlete. The problem with him is he's going to play a lot of football. Like, he's still relatively new to football. I think he started playing like a sophomore in high school, coming over from Africa to the States, and somebody introduced him to it, and he took to it. He's like, yeah, I'm really good at this. He's tall, he's long, he's athletic. He's got the tools, man. It's about learning how to play. And that's where the reps he got in spring and fall of last year helped him. Now, getting hurt set that back a little bit, but he's going to factor in big time for us at the 5 tech. And I thought he did some good things out there, made some nice plays on the edge. Justin Green's a guy also in that 2024 recruiting class, Mountain View prospect here, not here in Athens, but in Gwinnett County, here in the state of Georgia. I know he had a really strong spring, because I've heard from a lot of people I trust that he was really coming on as the spring progressed. I thought he did some good things working with the number 1 defense as well out there. So I'm excited about those 2 guys. We just need more bodies at that position. That's why I think a guy like Nnamdi Agboko stepping up and playing some 0 tech for us, that nose guard, can allow us to to maybe find a solution in some terms of using some of those athletic defensive tackles that we have situationally, play them at 5 tech as well. That might be a position where we explore the transfer portal when the spring window opens here in a couple of days, I think. But speaking of a thin position on the defense, outside linebacker is also a very thin position. We know we lost it. You lose the 2 leading sack guys on the team last year, tied for the team leading sacks with Chaz Chambers, who had a fantastic senior year. Love that for Chaz. Awesome guy. Great senior year. Jalen Walker, Buckets Award winner. Both those guys had 6.5 sacks last year. They're gone, right? And Jalen wasn't a full-time jack linebacker. He played situationally and played it well for us. Obviously, won the Buckets Award. Then Damian Wilson Jr., who also did some good things for us last year, was probably the heir apparent in that position. He transfers out. Samuel Mpimba transferred out before Damon Harris because he thought he was going to factor in. Because, hey, we got Damon Harris there. All of a sudden, man, we don't have a lot of bodies there, right? Very little experience. Well, the guy that has been making plays all spring long, that's been a name that I've heard a lot about throughout the spring, is Quintavious Johnson. He's a guy that, go back to last fall camp, was also generating some buzz. But we were just so loaded that position last year, he just was not going to get a chance to actually see any playing time on the field. It's just the way it was. We were loaded. Well, that's not the case this year. He's going to have to play. And the guy I believe is going to be the starter for us at Jack is Gabe Harris. He was hurt. Another one of the guys hurt, did not play at G-Day, was not doing anything all spring long. I would pencil him in as the starter right now. But Quintavious Johnson, at the very least, is going to be a rotational guy there and is going to play for us. 0 questions asked. Chris Jones is another guy that I was pleasantly surprised with. I know that we made the move at the beginning of spring, putting him at jack linebacker because we just need bodies there. He was a member of that 2024 recruiting class at inside linebacker along with Chris Cole and Justin Williams. But when we'll get to the inside linebackers in a second here, when we're that loaded at that position, there's just not a lot of playing time for him. So he's going to have much more of an opportunity to get playing time at outside linebacker, which he has the body to do it. He's got to learn how to play it, but he's got the size, he's got the physicality to hold up against the run, he's got the athleticism as an inside linebacker to also give you some pass rush off the edge. I thought he did some good things. I thought he looked athletic out there. I thought he did a good job setting the edge at times. So I think he's a work in progress, but it's another guy that can give us some snaps there if pressed into duty. Chase Linton is a guy, is a true freshman early enrollee that we got late in the cycle. We flipped him from Rutgers, if I remember correctly. He's not ready yet. He's still too thin. He needs to add some weight, get stronger out there. But I love the athleticism. I love the length. The long-term potential is very strong with him. He's just not ready right now. You saw him do some really athletic things out there, but you also saw him struggle against the run at times because he's just not big and strong enough yet to consistently hold up there, set the edge. But give him a year or two. Remember the name Chase Linton. I think that guy can be a big-time player for us. Just probably not this year. So I do think outside linebacker along with the 5 tech is probably a position that we're going to explore, trying to find somebody that can help us in the transfer portal when the spring window opens here in a couple of days. Inside linebacker, what else can I say? You guys know how I feel about the inside linebacker room. I did an episode and a video earlier this week, just kind of waxing poetic about the inside linebacker room as a whole, and I'm probably going to do the same thing here again, guys, because they did not let me down. C.J. Allen, stud. He is ready for a monster year 3. Let's remember this, guys. The legacy of year 3 inside linebackers at Georgia under Kirby Smart. Roquan Smith, year 3, Butkus Award, 2017. Then you go to 2021, Nakobe Dean, year 3, Butkus Award winner. 2024, Jalen Walker, year 3, Butkus Award winner. I can't guarantee that C.J. Allen's going to win the Butkus Award this year. That's a hard thing to do. But he might just well be the next in line to make that year 3 jump for Georgia inside linebacker position. Year 1, he did some really good things relative to the fact that he was a true freshman. I think people got a little bit carried away with how good he was as a freshman. He did some good things, no doubt, but he was also a true freshman, made a lot of mistakes, wasn't always playing 100%. Maybe that first run against Tennessee, I put that on him, and they bust that run, that long touchdown. Yeah, I put that one on him. There were a couple plays against Auburn. He got his eyes in the wrong spot with some of the misdirection they were using as a freshman. Did some good things, but he was also a freshman, right? Well, he took a big step in year 2. I thought he did a lot of really good things for us in year 2, and I'm fully expecting another massive jump this year. And if what I saw at GA is any indication, yeah, it's going to happen. That dude looked good, man. He's not the most athletic. In fact, I would probably argue he's the least athletic of the guys that will play inside linebacker for us this year. But the total package of CJ is awesome. He's plenty athletic enough, but his ability to defend the run in the box, between the tackles, to stack and shed blockers, I think he got much better in coverage as the season progressed. Maybe not his strong suit, but got much better in coverage as the season progressed. He can rush the passer. He's a good blitzer. As a total package, I think C.J. Allen's probably the best inside linebacker we have for this year. Now, ceiling, I think Chris Cole might have something to say about that, maybe even Justin Williams, but C.J. looked great. I thought Raylan Wilson looked awesome too. Now, that's a guy that I love coming out of high school. If you remember, we flipped him from Michigan in that cycle. Talented 5-star guy. Was doing some really good things as an early enrollee in spring and fall of his freshman year. Then got banged up in fall camp. Missed the first couple weeks, month or so of the season. That set him back a little bit behind CJ Allen. But I think Raylan's a better athlete. I think he's got better physical tools than CJ. Just not quite as big and thick as CJ is. But the thing with Raylan is that the first couple years, he struggled with eye discipline. He struggled with misdirection and kind of just thinking too much out there. When he could do like see ball, get ball, and just knew what was going on, the guy was unbelievable. Because his silent ability, his athleticism, the explosiveness he has in that position is awesome. I thought his 2 games against Texas were his best games he's ever played at Georgia because they didn't have a quarterback that could use a lot of misdirection in the run game. So he's see ball, get ball in the past years, awesome. But you could also kind of exploit some of the weaknesses in terms of his ability to read his keys and get full eye discipline, all that kind of stuff. But out there at G-Day, I thought he looked much more comfortable. He is playing fast. He was playing free. And if that's the case, if he's just got the knowledge of the system, he's got it down now in year 3, watch out for Raylan Wilson. So I do firmly believe that CJ and Raylan will be our starters at inside linebacker this year. But they are far from alone in being big-time players in the inside linebacker room for Georgia this year. Chris Cole, you know how I feel about this guy. Absolute freak of nature. Justin Williams, freak of nature. Justin Williams, number 1 inside linebacker in the country, top 5 guy in the 2024 recruiting class. Was too thin last year, just wasn't quite ready. Chris Cole was able to get on the field a little bit faster than him in a kind of a situational role when on third downs, especially when Smile Monday went down with injury in the middle of the year. But Chris Cole and Justin Williams, they started the game with the number 2 defense, okay? And the second half, Chris Cole got a lot of work with the number 1 defense. Primarily, that he did some inside, like true, like off-ball inside linebacker stuff for sure, but he was also getting a lot of work with the number 1 defense on third downs in the dime package situationally, because he is going to fill that role that Jalen Walker played for us last year. I'm not telling you he's going to be as good as Jalen Walker. Jalen Walker was unbelievable, but he can do a lot of the same things that Jalen did for us in terms of being able to have that versatility play off the ball inside linebacker, but also rush the passer. In fact, I don't know if he's quite as explosive off the edge as Jalen. Jalen shorter, and that lower center of gravity allows him to bend maybe a little bit better, but Chris Cole has better length, and he might have better like straight line speed. He's a better cover guy for sure. Justin Williams, by the way, talk about inside linebackers that can cover. He might be a little thin. That dude is an elite cover guy at inside linebacker in the pass game. We threw the ball a lot. That guy was covering really, really, really well. But Chris Cole, he is going to play for us this year. Both Chris Cole and Justin Williams will be in the rotation. They're going to play inside linebacker, but Chris Cole is going to play a lot for us. He'll play more than Justin Williams, in my opinion, barring injury, because he's going to be in that third down situational pass rushing role. I think, again, like Jalen Walker played a lot for us last year. So I know we are thin at outside linebacker. We have a lot of pass rushing production to replace, but I really believe that Chris Cole is a major part of the answer to that question this year for the Georgia defense. So love him, love Justin Williams, all those guys, all 4 of those guys looked fantastic. I thought Terrell Foster did some good things as well. Anthony Crew, a true freshman, still learning what to do, but he looks the part out there athletically. I think his future is going to be very bright for Georgia as well. All right, let's move back to the secondary here, to the back end before we get out of here. Cornerback. So no Dalen Everett. He's been banged up, did not practice all spring long, was not there at G-Day. That was anticipated. So it was Ellis Robinson and Daniel Harris who were out there with the number 1 defense to open to start G-Day. But Daniel Harris actually spent most of the second half working with the second team defense. DeMello Jones got some opportunities as well with the number one defense. They both got beat at times. Harris got beat more than Ellis did. The one time I remember Ellis getting beat was on the 2-minute drill. Sokovia White touchdown in the back of the end zone. I think he just lost him. But Harris, look, I'll say this for Daniel Harris. When he got beat, he was in position. It wasn't like he was just getting straight up burned. Okay, that wasn't the case. It's just the same story we've seen from Georgia corners for quite a while now, with the exception maybe like Kamari last year and Dalen Everett towards the end of last year. In phase, in position, making play on the ball, just not making plays on the ball. Even going all the way back to Keely Ringo, right? I know he made the great play in the national championship game, but how many times we see Keely Ringo in position to make a play and just lost the ball, had no idea where the ball was, right? Just no ball skills, right? Except the one time we needed the ball skills, and he had it. Thank God. Thank you, Keely, for that. Never forget that, right? But it's been a problem for us, right? Outside again, Kamari last year, I think Dalen Everett really came on at the end of last year. So Harris has kind of been up and down in that regard. I think when he took over the job at cornerback last year, opposite Dalen Everett late in the season, it was up and down. I thought there were times where he made great plays on the ball. There were times where he was there and just couldn't make the play on the ball. And you saw it again here at G-Day, kind of the same thing there. And that's why if I had to predict right now, like who's going to start opposite Dalen Everett at corner, I think this battle's going to carry over in the fall camp and probably carry over in the start of the season, but I would probably predict Ellis Robinson the fourth right now. Why? Because he's just a better cover guy. He's more consistent. He's got better ball skills. And for a team that has been in desperate need for a corner that can play with ball, I think about the Alabama game last year, guys. Oh my God. It just gives me nightmares. Absolute nightmares of that game. And just, yeah, I mean, you know how it went, man. Just consistently there in phase. Like Julian Humphrey, in phase. And then just can't make a play on the ball. Like the last touchdown on Ryan Williams, just flailing around the air helplessly. Like, what are we even doing? We need guys that can cover and make plays in the ball, especially how college football has evolved. It's a passing game, right? We need guys that can cover and make plays in the ball, and Ellis is just more effective in doing that than Daniel Harris, in my opinion. Daniel's longer. He's taller. That helps him. He's a little bit better against the run. Ellis, that's been the knock on him, right? He's a smaller guy, slighter of frame, not as physical in the perimeter run game, perimeter screen game. I saw some good things when I was looking at that all day at G-Day. I thought he showed some improvement there. I don't think it's ever going to be a strength of his. It's not. But I think he can be competent enough there to go along with his cover skills and ball skills that might give him the edge in terms of starting to open the season. And that doesn't mean he'll be the guy all year long. But if I had to handicap him right now, I'd probably say Ellis Robinson. I think I've seen more from him in terms of coverage and ball skills than Daniel Harris. Another guy to mention here, I thought DeMello did some good things, so he looked good as well. Dominic Kelly, he was number 24 out there. If you were watching G-Day, if you're one of the guys that are out there and you saw number 24 make plays, you're like, who is this guy? Dominic Kelly's a young guy. I did not expect him to come out there and play as well as he did. I thought he was awesome. I thought he was making great plays on 50-50 balls. I thought he was doing a good job staying in phase and staying in the hip pocket of receivers and knocking balls away, deflecting balls. I thought he looked awesome. I don't think he's going to factor in this year. I don't think. But that was very encouraging for the future because Dalen Everett's going to be gone after next year. So we're going to have somebody to play that position too, right? So I love Dominic Kelly out there. I thought he looked really, really strong. That was a guy that was kind of surprising me. I thought he looked really strong out there. Star. So I mentioned Janelle Aguero a little bit earlier. And yeah, okay, it's true. He got beat on a slot fade by Zachariah Branch. He got beat for a touchdown on a slot fade by Jeremy Bell, the redshirt freshman walk-on, right? All that's true. But I have in my notes right here. This is before those two plays happened. Janelle Aguero is the real deal. That's what I have in my notes here. He was looking awesome prior to those two plays. And look, those two plays happened. But with the exception of those two plays, he was fantastic. I mean, I've said it for I've been so high on Janelle Aguero since he got here, since we recruited this guy. And why? Because he's the prototype for us at that star position. What I mean by that is when you play star for Georgia, you really need to be like half inside linebacker, half corner. Because you have to cover guys, and you're covering like a shifty, fast, athletic slot receiver, but you also have legitimate run fit responsibilities in the box in our defense. So you're going to be having to go up against like real offensive linemen in the SEC. So you've got to be big enough and stout enough to do that, physical enough to do that, but also athletic enough to cover those faster, shiftier slot receivers. It's hard to find guys that can do that, right? It's tough, man. That's a tough thing to find. I think when we signed him, I was like, we got our guy. We got this guy. It didn't work out year one for him. Last year, he was going to be that guy, open the season, was banged up against Clemson, but started a number of games for us. But as the season went on, you started to see Malachi start getting more and more of those reps, especially with our dime package at the star position. But I thought Janelle was awesome. I've always felt strongly about him defending the run in the box because he's a physical guy. My question with him has always been, can you cover those faster, shiftier guys in the slot? Can you do that? And I know he got beat for those two long balls in the slot phase, but here's what I will say in his defense. Both those plays, he was right there. Stride for stride, there to make a play. Did he make a play on the ball? No, he did not. Now, the one with Zachariah Branch with the ball, it was just like, yeah, great play by him, but Janelle was right there. Like, he had his hand up here to make the play on the ball, and the ball went like just to the right of his hand. Like, we're talking like inches, or maybe even centimeters, and he would have made a play on the ball. He was in position on both those plays. It took a dime from the quarterback and a great play by the receiver on both plays for them to catch those footballs. So I'm not worried about that too much. Yes, those plays happen. We can't like bury our head in the sand. Those happen. But again, he was in phase. It wasn't like he was getting burned by 3 steps and just couldn't stay with the guys. He was with Zachariah Branch step for step. He was with Jeremy Bell step for step. And those guys are explosive athletes from that position. So I came away actually very encouraged by what I saw from Janelle Aguero. I think he's in line for a big year 3 as well. The guy that's probably going to be behind, looks like Adrian Maddox, the UAB transfer, to be the backup star. He was working primarily the second team at star, and I thought he looked good, man. I thought he looked physical in the box. He rushed the passer well. There's one play where he would have blown up Ryan Puglisi if it was a real game. They didn't even call it dead. It was an obvious sack. Like, he would have broken him in half. It was his blind side. He would have literally ripped his spine off, essentially, is what would have happened there. But I thought he looked good. Did some good things for us there. So if Janelle gets hurt like he did last year at times, I think we'll be okay with Adrian Maddox. At safety, yes, we know what we have in KJ Bolden. Dude's a freaking stud. He looks poised to have an even bigger year or two. He is that dude for us at safety right now. But as I've told you all spring long, it's Ja'Cory Thomas opposite KJ right now. I was not surprised to see him come out there with number one defense. That was what I anticipated. I told you guys that in the preview episode that we did for G-Day. And lo and behold, yes, he was out there. And here's what I'll say with Ja'Cory Thomas, all right? Is he the most physically gifted guy in the world out there? No. But in no world does that mean this guy can't play. I see a lot of similarities with him and like Dan Jackson and Chris Smith, right? Because think about those guys. Chris Smith, Dan Jackson did not have immediate success here at Georgia. Did not. They did not. They had to work for it, man. It didn't happen right away. They put their head down. They went to work. They took the coaching. They got better. They didn't complain. They didn't whine. They didn't pout. They didn't hit the transfer portal. They weren't toxic in the locker room. Nothing like that. They said, you know what? What can I do to get better? And they went and they worked and they got better. And that's exactly what Ja'Cory Thomas has done. I think he's next in line to be like Chris Smith, Dan Jackson, and have a big year. He's waited his turn. And now that his time has come, he's been working. And now that his time has come, just like when Chris Smith's time came, when Dan Jackson's time came, what were they ready to do? They were ready to ball out. And I think you might be able to say the same thing about Ja'Cory Thomas. I thought he looked strong out there as well. I thought Jaden Harris, the transfer from Miami, who basically started all year for them last year, I thought he did some really good things as well back there. He looked athletic. He did a good job filling the alleys as well in the run game. He was up and down for Miami last year, to say the least. But you also have to remember he was very new to that position last year. Now he's got better coaching, a year of experience under his belt. I expect a better year from him. It would not shock me if Jaden Harris worked his way into some sort of rotation. I think last year we had KJ, Dan, and Malachi. All three were playing. Maybe he works his way into like a dime package role. You bring him as the money defender. Who knows? There's some different things we could do situationally and based on the opponent. I also thought Zion Branch, like in terms of just like looking the part out there physically, Zion Branch looks the part, man. Like that dude is powerfully built. He moves very well out there. He's been banged up, hasn't played a ton of his career, dealt with a lot of injuries at USC. It wouldn't shock me if he found his way into some sort of rotation. So I think that's going to be an interesting battle there. I do think Ja'Cory Thomas will eventually emerge as the starter. He started at G-Day. I think he'll be the starter to open the season. But again, I think Harris and Branch, if they continue to progress and learn our system, their heads are spinning all spring long being new to our system. If they continue to progress and develop and take to the coaching, they could very well work their way into a rotation of sorts. I really like Ja'Cory Thomas, but I don't think he's so good that he merits being on the field every single snap, if you know what I mean. So I think they have a chance to work themselves into some sort of rotation there. I think all those guys that we got from the portal can certainly help us this year, whether it's at star or safety. And finally, guys, we'll get out of here. I had a couple questions on social media about punt return, kick return. From what I saw, it was mainly Zachariah Branch doing the punt returning, and it was mainly Dwight Phillips Jr. doing the kick returning. We have a number of guys that can factor in. I think Jacoby White can do some punt return for us. But Zachariah Branch, if you remember him coming out of high school as a 5-star guy, he was recruited as an athlete. He wanted to play receiver, and he was going to play receiver, but that was always going to be a work in progress for him. And he's gotten better and better over the years of that position, but he's just a dynamic athlete. Put the ball in his hands in space, let the man go to work. So I know Isaiah McKenzie was awesome for us as a punt returner in 2016, but Branch might be the best punt returner we've had in the Kirby Smart era since Isaiah McKenzie. I think there's a chance. And Dwight Phillips is just crazy fast, man. So you put him back there, if he hits the seam as a kick returner, watch out. I know kick returns kind of been taken out of the game, but if you don't kick one through the end zone and he finds a seam, Dwight Phillips got the speed to make you pay. But all right, guys, that's all I got. I know inevitably, I missed somebody that you wanted to know about. Again, one guy, two eyes, can't see everybody on every single play. So if there's somebody I missed, hit me up in the comments. Let me know who you want to know about, and I will do my best to respond, let you guys know what I saw from them, what I noticed from them, all those things. Yeah, just let me know, and I will do my very best to respond. But thank you guys so much for being here and checking out this episode. I greatly appreciate each and every one of you. If you enjoyed this kind of content, if you enjoyed this deep dive recap of G-Day, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel right now if you haven't already. We've got a ton more content for you guys. And I'm serious, guys. This content is designed for you. I do this. I started this podcast 10 years ago for people like you and me, diehard Georgia fans who want more than just like the surface level coverage that you see all over the place out there designed for casual fans. I wanted something designed for diehard fans, and that's what we do here. This podcast is made of, for, and by diehard Georgia fans. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. And if that's the case, please subscribe right now. Like, comment. Love to hear from you guys. But thank you again so much for being here. I'm Tyler, and as always, go Dogs!
Man, is there going to be some property destroyed tonight. 26-21. Dogs on top.